be no more than 15 minutes, where what I'm trying to do is to get the students to understand the difference between the sort of writing that they did in 101 and the sort of research and writing that I'm expecting them to do in English 250. That's the background. Now, you are my students for the next 20 minutes. You are going to be treated just like my students for the next 20 minutes. So welcome back to college. What I'd like you guys to do is take out a sheet of paper, please, and put your names on the top of it. I'm going to give you guys 3 terms, and what I want you to do is to tell me whether or not you guys want to be this. You guys all see this? Is it dark enough? So, you guys are going to do 2 things. The first thing is I want you to tell me, do you want to be controversial? Why or why not? Tell me whether you want to be arguable. Why or why not? And lastly, do you want to be clearly defined? Why or why not? Take the next few moments, jot some ideas down, then we'll talk about it.
Everybody has walked by, get a beer, and then stop. Look at this stuff and walk by. You see this going. Oh my God.
One more minute, folks. Okay, I'd like you to turn to the person sitting to your left or to your right and take the next few moments and share what you came up with. Go, talk.
I could push them into the opposite, so I thought maybe I could just they would want to think. And if I was clearly defined, maybe that would be stuck. I would feel stuck. Because we know it would grow.
Well, see, I was thinking clearly defined, because in that way, you know where I'm going, whether I'm controversial, or whether I'm arguable, you know where I'm heading. And that way, you can think the same place I'm going. But if I'm controversial, arguable, not clearly defined, we can go round and round and round in circles.
We probably would go round and round. I just felt I could prod more if I could change my argument. I was thinking of an argument in being persuasive, but I don't know. And I was thinking if that would do an argument, it might be persuasive. But you make absolute terrific sense. And as an instructor, I wonder, because as an instructor, you would want them to know what to do. You want to be, I guess we have to assume that instructors do that.
Well, no,
we're
he just said
students, yeah,
we're
we're
students.
students.
But still, as a student, I want to be clear to define. That way, when I'm talking to you or anybody here, you know where I'm going. And the more I get on my side.
In a way, I guess if I was arguable as a student and stop wanting to listen to me, it would be sort of...
Okay, folks, I'm going to pull you back together.
That's cool.
What I'm about to show you is a video clip from Stephen Colbert. It was shot about a year ago. Talk about the words that I'm using in a second, part of his rhetorical awareness. Some of you may remember the Gabrielle Giffords shooting in Arizona about a year ago. Following the shooting, there was a lot of rhetoric that went around. This is a term that might be new to you. Of course, today we're going to talk about exactly what the term rhetoric means, kind of in a classical sense and the modern sense, and how it has a career connection that goes along with it. That's coming. But here's what I want you to do. I want you to watch this clip very closely. And I want you to ask yourself 3 questions, and I want you to jot these ideas down as you're watching them. Do you find Colbert to be controversial? Why or why not? Do you find Colbert to be arguable? Why or why not? Do you find Colbert to be clearly defined? Why or why not? Watch the video clip very closely, jot your ideas down, and then I'll tell you what you're going to do next. That to be controversial in what you're trying to say. I don't want you guys to simply regurgitate the ideas that you may find in your research. You got to take an innovative perspective, an innovative spin, something new, some innovative way of looking at that subject matter. And sometimes what that means is that we have to be controversial. We have to say things that might be true. We'll talk about that much later in the semester, the whole idea of truth. We've got to talk about something that's true in a way that maybe some people don't want to hear it. And sometimes that's part of controversy. Now, also though, realize this, that sometimes we are controversial not to try to get to the truth, but because we want people's attention. I don't want you to be that kind of a writer. We'll talk about that as we go further on into the semester. That's one aspect. Now, secondly, this is where people start to usually have some different perspectives. Do you guys find him to be arguable? Show of hands. Thinks he's arguable. Mark, why arguable?
Well, I thought that he argued the absurdity of the extremes on both sides. And so you walked away, and I first started off that he was clear. I mean, I've kind of moved all 3, but that was my take on it. If you go to the extreme of both sides, they both seem extreme and crazy. So.
Absolutely. Yet, what's interesting is that he has some evidence, he has some proof. Think about that video clip. How often did you see him cite a politician? How often did you see him cite some other individual? How often did you also see him cite maybe a text? This is evidence in some respects to try to prove that his controversial statement has some validity to it. Now, one of the other things I want you guys to do in your writing is not only be controversial, but I also want you to be arguable. You can't just simply throw it out there on the wall and see what sticks. You have to have evidence to prove what you are trying to say. And we're going to talk over the semester about how you do that. Whether it is facts, statistics, expert testimony, or first-hand observations. Primary, secondary, tertiary texts. More details on that to follow. Anybody else on the arguable side? Any of you guys not find him to be arguable?
I have a question.
Go ahead, Pat.
You're saying that because someone quotes a politician, that gives evidence?
It all depends on how you want to define what is your evidence. This is somebody who's offering a first-hand observation. One of the things that we have to do as a rhetorician is we have to ask ourselves the question, is that good enough proof? If we have Sarah Palin up here arguing something, is that enough proof? If we throw up Stephen Colbert, is that enough proof? This is also going to be something we'll talk about in English 250. Comm 150, you learn about the essentials of information literacy, like great instructors like Susan Smith, for instance, that taught the course to you. In a class like this one, though, we're kicking it up a notch. It's not just simply enough to access the information. We have to evaluate the quality of it and make a decision about whether or not that evidence is going to be adequate enough for us to prove our thesis statement. It's an excellent question. And that also, by the way, to your point, that might mean that maybe Colbert is clearly being controversial, but maybe not being effective from an argumentative perspective. Also an excellent point. Clearly defined. This is where people always tend to be all over the place with it. Do you find Colbert to be clearly defined? Who says no? Not clearly defined. Guy, why?
Because he didn't do a step-by-step and say, and follow the same thought through the entire thing. It was jumping around.